Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about power and conflict poetry for AQA GCSE English Literature, and I'm going to be providing you with analysis for War Photographer. Okay, War Photographer by Carol and Duffy. So let's start by thinking about what the poem is about. The poem is about how war affects a war photographer. He finds it hard to readjust to normal life when he is back in Britain. The poem is almost certainly a tribute to Sir Don McCullum, who worked for the Times, somebody who was also a friend of Carol Ann Duffy's, the poet. It references some of his work, and in his retirement from photojournalism, he took images of the British countryside, and there's allusions to that and the idea of his life at home being conflicted by his experience of war. The poem explores how we can't really understand the horror of war as spectators from afar. So we're going to start with the reading of the poem now, and once we've done that, we're going to think about the form and structure and key uses of language in the poem. War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy. In his dark room he is finally alone, with spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. The only light is red and softly glows, as though this were a church and he a priest preparing to intone a mass. Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh, all flesh is grass. He has a job to do. Solutions slop in trays beneath his hands, which did not tremble then, though seem to now. Rural England, home again to ordinary pain which simple weather can dispel, to fields which don't explode beneath the feet of running children in a nightmare heat. Something is happening. A stranger's features faintly start to twist before his eyes, a half-formed ghost. He remembers the cries of this man's wife, how he sought approval without words to do what someone must, and how the blood stained into foreign dust. 100 agonies in black and white, from which his editor will pick out 5 or 6 for Sunday's supplement. The reader's eyeballs prick with tears between the bath and pre-lunch beers. From the aeroplane he stares impassively at where he earns his living, and they do not care. So we need to think about how we're going to structure our response. And the first thing we do in the exam is we explain what the poems are about. So a couple of sentences about each of the poems, the named poem and the poem that we've chosen to write about. So War Photographer explores the impact war has had on a photographer who finds it hard to readjust to life when he returns from war. It makes war seem destructive and terrifying, whilst also exploring the idea that audiences can never truly understand that without having experienced it. That's my introduction, and I do that for both poems, and then I'd move on to talk about the structure of the poems. So my second paragraph is going to talk about the structure in each of the poems. So make a comment on the rhyme scheme or the metre of each. Here's me doing that for War Photographer. So the war photographer is trying to bring order to a chaotic world and is also trying to find order in his life. And these ideas are reflected by the structure. The use of rhyming couplets brings some sense of order to the poem, but a feeling of unease is created by the switching between iambic pentameter and iambic hexameter. So you've got that idea of almost orderly structure that's broken by the changing of meter there. So that's a really high level way of looking at the structure and then linking it to the ideas that are being explored in the poem. Now you may have analysed the poem in class and thought about every single line, and that is certainly a valid thing to do. But in all honesty, for the exam, you only need 3 or 4 quotes to be able to comment on really confidently. So we've got 4 really great examples of language here in yellow in the boxes. This is the only flashcard you should need. All flesh is grass. So this is a metaphor that perhaps is exploring the idea that everywhere the war photographer looks on his return home, he sees death. And the idea of grass and flesh being linked there suggests that. But also it's a biblical reference, and it could be reminding us about the fact that life ends, and it's introducing that theme of death. Got spools of suffering in ordered rows. So there's a sort of sinister tone here, perhaps being created by the sibilants. But we've got this phrase, ordered rows. And Don McCullum took some images of public executions. They tend to take place in ordered rows. Now, he's trying to bring order to the world, but perhaps this is also hinting at the sort of pictures that he would be developing. People awaiting their executions. That is stark, but that's the sort of images that Don McCullum took for the Times. We've got fields that explode beneath the feet of running children in a nightmare heat. So this is a link to an image of somebody called Kim Fook, a girl that was scorched by napalm in the Vietnam War. It's a really iconic image, and it definitely changed public opinion towards that conflict. So Caroline Duffy here referencing that image is maybe sort of highlighting the importance of the work that photojournalists do on the front line in conflicts. And we've got strangest features faintly start to twist. Now, it's a simple enough looking line at face value, but when you think about that verb twist, photos that are developed in a darkroom, they come into view very slowly, and this idea of features faintly starting to twist, that verb twist has got all sorts of allusions to pain and dying. The image that Don McCullough, or the war photographer, if you like, might be developing here could be of somebody's last moments. So it's quite a powerful reference to the sort of suffering that war photographers capture in their work. Okay, take your revision further. Can you recall what the poem is about and what themes are explored in it? Can you explain the effect of the structure on the poem? There's a couple of key terms for you to learn here and make sure that you get written down. And can you recall 4 key quotes and analyse them? Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content, and feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.